Have you ever met a woman who seemed attractive on the outside, but the moment she opened her mouth, her true nature became impossible to ignore? Her mindset, her values, and the way she carried herself, everything screamed immaturity, dysfunction, and insecurity masked as confidence. You tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. You assumed she was just having a bad day, but then, the more you observed, the clearer it became. She wasn't just lost, she was proudly lost. Now, before we begin, let's make something clear. This isn't a video made to hate or bash women. It's bigger than that. Because the traits we're going to explore today aren't exclusive to women. Many men fall into these same traps. But what makes this video relevant and necessary is that these traits, when present in women, tend to be overlooked, excused, or even praised in today's world. That's dangerous, not only for relationships, but for society at large. So if you're a man watching this, use this as a lens of discernment. And if you're a woman watching this, use this as a mirror. The goal is not judgment. The goal is growth. The most vile and disgusting trait is at the end. So do well to stay until then. Without wasting more time, let's begin. Trait number 1. She confuses attention for value. This is one of the most dangerous and revealing traits of a foolish woman. She thrives on attention. Not meaningful connection, not genuine respect, but attention in its loudest, most shallow form. The likes, the comments, the fire emojis, the DMs, this is her oxygen. She dresses not for herself, but for others. Her self-worth hangs on the number of notifications she receives, and the tragedy is, she calls it confidence when it's actually dependence. Every photo she posts, every angle she perfects, every caption she crafts is a silent plea for validation. She believes the more men desire her, the more valuable she becomes. But what she doesn't understand is that desire is cheap. It costs a man nothing to double-tap a photo or send a message at 2 a.m. Respect, however, costs effort. It's born from consistency, depth, and discernment. And she's not playing that game because it requires substance. A wise woman knows the difference. She carries herself with quiet dignity. She doesn't need external validation because she's built internal value. She knows that her worth isn't found in being seen, but in being known. And that kind of knowing doesn't happen through screens. It happens through presence, through action, through restraint. Let's be honest here, this isn't just a problem among women. Men fall into the same trap, chasing clout and external praise. But society rewards women more visibly for it, which makes the temptation even more dangerous. The foolish woman gets addicted to the feedback loop. She posts, she receives a hit of dopamine, she repeats. She builds her identity on external noise, all while her inner self withers in silence. And by the time she realizes the applause doesn't fill the void, it's often too late. She's built her confidence on a foundation of strangers' opinions, and when the crowd leaves, so does her sense of self. Trait number 2, she's obsessed with materialism and greed. You can spot her by the way she scans a room. She's not listening to your words, she's calculating your worth. A foolish woman doesn't ask, is he kind? Is he growing? Is he building something meaningful? Instead, she wants to know, what car does he drive? What brand is his watch? What's his salary? Her standards aren't rooted in soul, they're indexed by status, not character, but credit. Let's be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting beautiful things. It's normal to dream of traveling to luxurious places, owning quality clothes, and building a life that feels abundant. The problem isn't the desire, it's the obsession. When a woman begins to chase lifestyle over substance, image over meaning, that's when things begin to break down. The designer handbags, the curated Instagram photos, the expensive dinners, none of it is about fulfillment. It's about performance, about creating an illusion of happiness rather than pursuing the real thing. She doesn't see a man for who he is. She sees him as a shortcut to the lifestyle she craves, but the cost is hidden. Every time she chooses luxury over loyalty, she trades short-term sparkle for long-term emptiness. And what's worse, she calls it empowerment. She mistakes high maintenance for high value. But the truth is, the more she chases wealth as her identity, the more hollow her spirit becomes. A wise woman, she appreciates quality without being owned by it. She recognizes a man's ambition, but she also looks at his heart, his intentions, his wisdom. She knows that peace can't be purchased and love can't be leased. She's drawn to depth, not decoration. The woman consumed by materialism, though, becomes a prisoner of her own appetite, because no matter how much she gets, it's never enough. There's always a newer bag, a nicer trip, a richer man, and eventually she loses sight of what truly matters. That quiet, kind, grounded man she ignored. He becomes someone else's partner. And she's left with luxury and loneliness, with memories of things that didn't matter and a heart that never learned how to value what did. Because when your self-worth is built on what you have, it crumbles the moment those things are gone. A foolish woman only realizes that when she's spent her youth chasing what could never make her whole. The third trait is that she talks more than she listens. This one is subtle but dangerous. A foolish woman doesn't just speak often, she never listens. She talks over others, interrupts mid-sentence, and constantly shifts the spotlight back to herself. Conversations aren't moments of connection, they're stages for performance. She isn't trying to understand you, she's waiting for her turn to speak again. In arguments, she's louder, not wiser. She deflects responsibility, shifts blame, and calls any criticism hate. The moment feedback starts sounding like truth, she retreats into defensiveness or sarcasm. To her, listening feels like losing, and that mindset is exactly what keeps her stuck. What she doesn't realize is that growth requires silence. Wisdom requires reflection. Strength comes from being able to say, "I didn't know that," or "You're right." But a foolish woman can't go there because her ego is louder than her curiosity. Now contrast that with a wise woman. She listens twice before she speaks once. She pauses. She reflects. She values substance over volume. She's not just hearing your words, she's weighing them. And even more importantly, she listens to herself. She sits with discomfort. She welcomes truth even when it hurts, because here's the hard truth. A woman who never listens will never evolve, and the woman who never evolves, she ends up bitter, confused, and stagnant, caught in the same loops, repeating the same mistakes, wondering why life feels so loud and yet so empty. Listening isn't weakness, it's maturity. And maturity is the only path out of foolishness. Trait number 4, she doesn't learn from her mistakes. This trait is like a slow poison, silent, repeated, and devastating over time. A foolish woman doesn't grow from pain, she recycles it. She finds herself in the same heartbreak, the same chaos, the same disappointment, but with different faces, different places. The names change, the settings change, but the outcome stays the same. Why? Because instead of asking herself the tough questions, what patterns am I repeating? What behaviors am I ignoring? She deflects. She blames. She clings to narratives that protect her ego but imprison her growth. She doesn't say, "What can I learn from this?" She says, "Men are trash," or "People just keep hurting me." And in doing so, she turns herself into the victim of her own choices. The foolish woman becomes addicted to drama, to chaos. She mistakes emotional instability for depth. She romanticizes dysfunction and calls it passion. But passion without direction is destruction. And she doesn't just damage herself, she damages everyone close to her. On the other hand, a wise woman views mistakes as messages. She takes ownership, not because it feels good, but because it makes her better. She doesn't seek comfort, she seeks clarity. She studies her past like a blueprint and builds something stronger with every failure. The truth is, we all fall, we all fail. But wisdom begins the moment we stop blaming the flaw and start looking at how we walk. A woman who refuses to learn from her mistakes is a risk to herself and everyone who loves her, because you cannot build trust, growth, or intimacy on a foundation that keeps cracking under pressure. Growth demands reflection, and without it, even the most beautiful potential will rot into patterns that keep repeating until life finally forces her to listen. Trait number 5. She lacks self-control and lives on impulse. This is one of the clearest signs of a woman not yet in command of her life. Whether it's how she spends money, how she eats, how she handles conflict, or how she chases attention, everything is ruled by impulse. If she feels lonely, she overshares. If she's angry, she lashes out. If she's bored, she shops. If she's insecure, she seeks validation. Every decision is a reaction, not a reflection. But here's the truth. Self-control is the bridge between a chaotic life and a powerful one. It's the difference between a girl who's run by emotions and a woman who rules them, between a life that constantly crashes and one that steadily rises. Because without self-control, everything becomes unstable. Relationships, finances, health, even self-worth. The woman without discipline becomes a slave to every urge. She can't say no to cravings, to drama, to attention, or to emotional outbursts. She burns bridges, drains people, and sabotages her own peace, then wonders why her life feels so chaotic. And instead of taking accountability, she tells herself she's just emotional or just being real, when in reality, she's just being reckless. A wise woman knows that restraint is not repression, it's power. She doesn't numb her feelings, but she refuses to let them drive the car. She feels, but she pauses. She considers the long term before she gives in to the short term. She thinks before she speaks. She reflects before she reacts. And that ability to choose wisely in moments of emotional pressure is the mark of true maturity. The world teaches women that self-expression is freedom. But what it doesn't teach is that unfiltered expression without discipline leads to destruction. Real freedom is having the ability to feel deeply and still act wisely. Because without self-control, life becomes a series of cleanups after bad decisions, and eventually the people around her stop seeing her as passionate and start seeing her as exhausting. Trait number 6. She thinks loyalty and submission are weaknesses. This one might sting a little, but it's one of the most misunderstood and emotionally charged traits of a foolish woman. She hears the word submission and instantly recoils. To her, it means weakness, it means erasure, it means giving up her voice, her independence, her power. And so she fights it. Not because she truly understands what it is, but because she's been told that trusting a man, supporting a man, following a man, that somehow makes her less. But here's the truth. Real submission, the kind that exists in a healthy, mature relationship, is not slavery. It's synergy. It's not oppression. It's trust. And it only works when a wise woman chooses a man worthy of that trust. A man with vision, with strength, with direction. A man she respects not because she has to, but because he's earned it. The foolish woman never makes it that far. She wants a man to lead, but only when it's convenient. She wants protection, provision, and loyalty, but resists giving the same. She confuses cooperation with control. She wants love, but only if she can dominate it. And in the process, she sabotages the very intimacy she craves. A wise woman knows better. She knows that loyalty is not submission to a man's ego, but alignment with a shared purpose. She doesn't follow blindly, she walks beside him, knowing when to lead and when to lean. She doesn't lose herself in a man, she becomes more of herself in a partnership that multiplies her strength. The tragedy is, the foolish woman often realizes the truth too late, after burning through good men, after mistaking independence for isolation, after finding herself surrounded by attention but starved of real intimacy. Because love isn't about power, it's about peace, it's about purpose, it's about building something together that neither could build alone. And if she keeps resisting that out of pride, she'll win her independence, but lose the very connection her soul was searching for all along. So, here's the path forward. If you've recognized any of these traits in someone you know or in yourself, this isn't a call to shame. It's a call to grow, because intelligence isn't about degrees or vocabulary, it's about wisdom, self-awareness, and the courage to evolve. Stupidity isn't loud, sometimes it's subtle. It shows up in the choices we repeat, in the values we chase, in the truth we ignore. And let's be clear, every point in this video can apply to men too. In fact, many men today are drowning in the same dysfunction. But this message was crafted with the intention of helping women see the patterns that society often refuses to confront. So if you're a woman watching this and you feel called out, good. That means there's still fire in you, that means you're still willing to grow. And if you're a man watching this, use what you've learned. Don't be bitter, be better. Discern wisely. Don't chase beauty. Choose department. So, here's the path forward. If you've recognized any of these traits in someone you know or in yourself, this isn't a call to shame. It's a call to grow, because intelligence isn't about degrees or vocabulary, it's about wisdom, self-awareness, and the courage to evolve. Stupidity isn't loud, sometimes it's subtle. It shows up in the choices we repeat, in the values we chase, in the truth we ignore. And let's be clear, every point in this video can apply to men too. In fact, many men today are drowning in the same dysfunction. But this message was crafted with the intention of helping women see the patterns that society often refuses to confront. So if you're a woman watching this and you feel called out, good. That means there's still fire in you, that means you're still willing to grow. And if you're a man watching this, use what you've learned. Don't be bitter. Be better. Discern wisely. Don't chase beauty. Choose depth. Choose peace. Choose growth. Thank you for watching. If this message struck a chord, share it. Leave a comment below and let's talk about what traits you've noticed, what red flags you've seen, and what kind of person you're becoming. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Stoic Clarity. Because here, we don't just talk, we evolve. See you in the next one. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. Stay stoic.